What the trans conversation is foisting upon us is the need to find ways to slice the athletic universe such that we still have interesting, fair matches. What is your hormone level now, if you want to compete? So it requires more creative thought.
How can we expect that a transgender woman, i.e., a biological man, will ever take care to make sure that he's reducing his advantages hormonally or otherwise? He would have to reduce his chances of winning in order to do so. And why would they do that? It's insane. Hello, good people. It is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And what are we talking about? Transgender women in sports. Transgender women, i.e., biological men. You know, there's a saying that goes, questions that aren't properly answered never seem to go away. One such question is whether or not transgender women, i.e., biological men, should participate in sports against biological women. The reason this question is never really answered properly is because we always start at the wrong level of analysis. As is the case with many questions that never seem to be properly answered, we get bogged down into details about the differences between men and women, which are important and, of course, relevant, but they don't really deal with the fundamental question when it comes to transgender women in sports. This question can't really be properly answered unless we ask the most fundamental question, in my opinion, which is, why do we do the sports in the first place? The answer to this question is simple. Sports is about exploring the boundaries of human capacity within specific categories of competition. That's it. That's the reason why sports exists. And somebody might say, well, that's not the only reason why sports exists, because, we participate in sports because it's fun or because we want to be happy or self-actualization or exercise. Of course, all of that's nonsense because you can have fun and happiness and self-actualization and exercise without sports. The whole thing that gives sports meaning is the thing that makes it unique. We want to know how high we can jump, how far we can run, and we want to know how much a single human being or a team of human beings can accomplish physically. Sports is the only way to do that, besides war, of course, and nobody wants that. So that's what sports is about. And sports are also about doing the best that you possibly can. No one respects the athlete that almost reaches his or her capacity. Sports are only exciting when we maximize our skill or strength or ability. Think about how exciting it is when someone breaks a world record. There was once a time when we thought it was impossible to break the 4-minute mile. If you go back like 60 years, for example, and look at the people who participated in the 100-meter dash, the winner of that race wouldn't even qualify for today's final. I mean, we have made such progress athletically, and we have yet to really even scratch the surface in some ways of the maximum human capacity in many of the sports we participate in. But this is where it becomes helpful and instructive to remember what the point of sports is in the first place when discussing transgender women, i.e., biological men, in women's sports. Because we're trying to find the boundaries of our athletic capacity, sports is only interesting when we maximize our capacity. But transgender women are of necessity trying to lower their athletic capacity in order to make it fair for them to participate. And this fact, this singular fact, is the reason why transgender women, i.e., biological men, in women's sports can never truly be fair. They are being asked to do two things that cannot be pursued at the same time. That is, to maximize their capacity while keeping it low enough to be within a female range. I mean, this is the logical equivalent of trying to serve two masters. It cannot be done. If you pursue one, you will abandon the other. I mean, consider all the conflicts of interest that are introduced by this weird, bizarro world phenomena. Winning athletic competitions often generates millions of dollars for the successful. Fame, notoriety, adoration, personal satisfaction. Then we turn around and tell a transgender woman, i.e. a biological man, that in order for him to compete, he has to, as much as possible, reduce his very capacity to win. I mean, how in the world can we expect anyone to do that when there are so many incentives to do the opposite? Anyone who doubts this can just look at the phenomenon that arose when performance-enhancing drugs became popular in sports. I mean, the reason why PEDs became so prominent is because the trappings of winning are so enticing. PEDs, however, are illegal in virtually every athletic competition we can think of. Why? Because they're antithetical to the whole point of sports, which is to find the limits, more specifically the natural limits, of human capacity athletically. When people take unnatural substances to increase their capacity, it sullies the very thing that we are trying to discover. Barry Bonds, for example, his home run record will forever have an asterisk beside it because everyone knows he cheated. Why did he do it? I mean, he was already better than everyone, but he did it anyway because he wanted to win. That's why. Everybody wants to win. Everyone who competes has the same goal. In an era when one person's chemist is pitted against another to see who's best at hiding the fact that you're cheating, which is what the PED era was, and still is, I suppose, how can we expect that a transgender woman, i.e., a biological man, will ever take care to make sure that he's reducing his advantages hormonally or otherwise? He would have to reduce his chances of winning in order to do so. And why would they do that? It's insane. I mean, this, of course, assumes that it's even possible to reduce his advantages to a level that makes him comparable to a female. As far as I know, there are no hormonal shots that a man can take that will change the angle of his hips, for example. That gives him a distinct advantage that women do not have, seeing as though their hips were designed for childbearing. And they're pretty good at the childbearing thing, but it makes them less good at running. So I guess it sucks to be them if they're competing against a transgender woman, i.e. a biological man. I don't know of any hormonal treatments that can weaken the strength of someone's tendons or ligaments or reduce their hand size. When you consider the fact that differences between elite athletes at the top of their profession is often so tiny that it takes special electronic equipment to even measure them, how do we think we can reasonably take away all the small and subtle advantages that men have over women and eliminate them in a way that makes them fair? I don't even think we can account for all the ways men have physical advantages over women. When the differences between first and second often mean millions of dollars in contracts where the other rides off into obscurity, this isn't a trivial question at all. At the end of the day, discussions about hormonal differences, XY chromosomes, and the like only tell part of the story. The reason why we can't allow this, and we can't allow transgender women, i.e. biological men, to participate against women in women's sports is because a man simply has a higher capacity than a woman, all things being equal. And since we can't expect a transgender woman to pursue winning while also weakening himself at the same time, there's no reason to think that we can actually have a successful integration of transgenders into women's sports. But I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Let me know in the comments. Till next time, friends, God bless you.